Get ready for the ultimate clash. Restored G-Wagon with a new heart versus the modern golden G-Wagon. Past meets present in an adrenaline-pumping race. Witness the battle of legends, power and passion. Brace yourself for the G-Wagon showdown. Past versus present. It's a time for automotive brilliance. The car is already close to us. However, this time we've decided not to burden you with a bunch of technical details about the hardware, like how the nuts turn, but rather present everything in one video. Currently, this car boasts a power output of at least 400 horsepower and 500 Nm of torque for you. It accelerates to 100 km per hour in 4.2 seconds, which by modern standards might seem agonizingly long to many. Some might argue that there are cars that do it in 4.4 seconds, but they have features like water start. Yet this car is about emotions, speed, about being the fastest. In one of the latest series that came out over 2 years ago, we told you that this would be the anti-us project. It's certainly not a fresh model today, but it does accelerate to 100 km per hour in 3.7 seconds, similar to the latest generation Geländewagen on a strong chip. Also in this series, our goal is to achieve at least the same coveted 3.7 seconds on UAZ. We have an interesting question here. This is the very first custom engine in my life. I easily understand the value of rubles to horsepower. While Denise is googling the principles of a four-stroke engine's operation, before assembling a V8 engine, we generously understand what we're talking about. The most interesting part is how much it will cost. How much can such an engine cost? Well, not in our case. Let's say I want a 5.0, okay, 4.2 liters and 650 horsepower. How much could it cost based on what you've already built? But I think it's possible to build it for under 1 million rubles, not using high-end components. Just a turbocharger, injectors, bearings, without any fancy camshafts. That's your simple answer to why we always take donor cars. We got a Range Rover for 600k, took the engine out, which actually has 510 horsepower. We could have pushed it further. We took the leftovers and sold them for another 200k. Then we disassembled the Range Rover, got a Gazelle, Profi. When you're building a fully custom new engine, it's absolutely unprofitable and meaningless. That's why donors are perfect for us. As for the cost, naturally we could buy parts from China on AliExpress, the cheapest stuff, maybe find something there, like connecting rods from a certain model. In our case, since Denise Roche is in charge and aiming for top results, there hasn't been a single engine of yours, as you said. Yeah. Of course, the engines cost $1 million each, as they should, because we buy the best materials. In this case, it works perfectly for us. We use such almost maximal, practical rods, bolts, pistons, etc. As we mentioned in previous episodes, the problem is that all this comes from America. Naturally, it took a very long time to arrive, as we discussed before. It was very expensive, and naturally there is no guarantee that if you order it today, it will even arrive. You might face big orders and issues with ordering for legal entities. I realized that if I used to always say, today is the 18th of August, there are projects where we have to specify the year to understand later during editing when and how long we've been building it. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's the 18th of August 2022. We still want to hit the UAZ season. There are no obstacles. This season will end and start anew, after all. In this case, progress is finally evident because the engine is finally being put together in an epic fashion. Got into the car, and finally the wedding took place. Gorka for the new leads, health, happiness amidst the solemn gunshots of the Dagestanis. Everything happens on site, and now we have to move forward to install the cup holders from the Ford Raptor F150 with the fan. There are many questions regarding cooling because the cooling radiator starts here, but over time it seems the mounting plane rusted. Originally, the stock radiator was here, but, as you can imagine, the car isn't new, so the radiator simply shifted slightly downward. Now it partially protrudes here, in front of it stands the oil cooler, and partially it protrudes here. A significant portion of it is naturally obstructed by the bumper, and cutting something here isn't an option. We'll remove the cardboard just in case, or we might head into winter with it, so I figured out for sure. Dean is known when the project will exit the box, so he's already put the cardboard here, thinking about the future. So today, well, that's the right thing to do. Based on this, you'll roughly understand when you're watching this, because for now, I'm not quite sure, but still the engine is assembled on the coil packs, like the Audi R8. It's all cocoa here, S4 everywhere, engines look similar. What's nice is the huge turbo everywhere, it's already the 35th. Yes, we have a GTX, similar to Audi's, by the way. I think Audi uses the 47s, if I'm not mistaken, some kind of Cologne car, it's big. This one here is almost the same, but it's inflated by 3 or 4, and there it can be deflated to 2.2. Then it will cut off. Civil 600? No, more like, it's interesting. It's set up for 7 and around 600 horsepower. Anyway, even when everything starts and it goes, I'm very aware that this is only the middle because the gearbox will naturally burn out immediately. The Stacy can't handle this much torque, this much power, not all of this. Fortunately, from working with the Audi S4, I realized that you can put an 8HP 70 from a Range Rover, from BMW, from Mercedes, whatever you want. Audi also loves 8HP gearboxes. In general, these gearboxes are used for everything, including the RS series, M series, CS Competition series, the most charged ones, having been used the 8HP 70 or 8HP 90 for a long time. Even the Grand Cherokee Trackhawk has a ZF 8HP. So we know for sure that there is a gearbox that can handle everything. The best part is that the guys from the iPad Pacman software make electronics control units for these gearboxes, so we know exactly how we will solve this. This time we won't have these multi-month sufferings about how to implement the transmission. The case that the transfer case comes out the other way is pure coincidence. Clear. Don't think about the worst-case scenario. Let's continue. After a certain number of days and hundreds of thousands of rubles, we found ourselves again under UAZ again. But the world of customization is such that, whether you come or not doesn't matter. The war goes in all directions, completely unrelated. But now we find ourselves under the car because, as you understood from the previous cut, the engine is in place and everything is more or less configured, around 95%. Underneath we have now the world of radiators. RF in principle has all form factors, sizes, applications. Now it's available for UAZ as well. I now have, like a Bugatti Veyron, radiators for all life eventualities. Essentially they all serve the standard functions, just very large and hefty. Down here we have the oil radiator. This radiator cools the oil in the engine, and it's quite large for the oil. We've seen quite a bit radiators, especially in ultra tanks, are often as big as KAMAZ radiators. Here the gearbox radiator is like this. It can still be considered human-sized, although it's not small either. Behind it is the main radiator, and at the top we have the intercoolers. The intercoolers here are also just huge, although they can be seen from here. Even the oil filter is positioned for cooling, so it also takes part in this whole temperature reduction process. There is a considerable number of oil hoses, all with extreme diameters. They're massive. Moving on, we see the engine oil pan. Behind our stock engine oil pan, we have a nearly stock transmission oil pan that I'm sure will crack on the first drive. No one has any doubts. The temperature sensor that's no longer needed for the custom transmission won't be required because the new brain can show the transmission temperature on the instruments. The original brain couldn't do this before, but now it can. Above all this lies the turbo. We have massive turbos here. Here, there will be an overflow pipe located under all of this. These are just tubes. It's okay. I haven't said it's called a screamer. This is a new perversion for me that I'm observing in the car. Nevertheless, it exists. When the RPMs are high, then I will suddenly release the gas, and from here, there won't be a turbo. It will start passing through and expelling excess air here. Specifically here, because if it is expelled there, there will be trouble. Not good at all. But here it's a blow gate. No, I'm just used to everything being as usual, like on the guys. I like boost and blow. Yes, I understand. Although the gate angle is not very accurate, of course, but it's better to have it wealthy, I believe. She used some expletives, I understood. My goodness, I didn't know that. This is the case when the blow gate is set up correctly. That's rare case, by the way. Attention, it's for your own use. We move on, and we see the exhaust. A 90-degree exhaust that goes straight and comes from the bank. The bank isn't very different from the main pipe. It all looks very terrifying. In reality, the camera doesn't capture it. It's just terrible. It all goes there. It's one thing. The main exhaust is still controlled, but now it goes in different directions. We have two 63mm turbos with electronically controlled throttles. We've abandoned vacuum because it's not needed in a turbo engine. For a turbo engine, put in a receiver valve here, and there is complicated, so it's easier to switch to electric. They come out like they used to, but now there are 63s. They're already quite difficult to hide under this threshold, but we'll see. Were there 63s here? All right. Okay, wait, so that means the cutoff was neater. Nothing will fit now. But now, I'm getting it. Look at this fuss. Look how it was, make it how it was. Alright, moving on. We have everything as it was, the stock reducer. I can't imagine how much power will be sent here to weld the prop shaft. Most likely, of course. It's probably performing its last swan-song on the first test drives. So I'll need a lot of concrete around me, a lot of protection, helmets, gloves. Most likely so that everything will be alright. And for all other situations, in any case, there will be mode switches, combat or cruise. You can drive in cruise mode when not in combat, which is safer. What's really pleasing is that there is not less weight from the top. Engines, radiators, transmission oil pans and other components are located at the bottom. What you see on the top is the intercooler, or rather two intercoolers made from two Ford Raptor F150 radiators. We made one intercooler for the anti-gel. Therefore, stock banks were created on the right and left sides. Here we have two intercoolers connected like this, and there is a certain flow divider. All of this is cooled. I feel that it's just 100 and something degrees. Not much, just 90. But it looks really powerful. This one is 102, and this is 90. Yes, it's all quite a lot. It's not the factory version, isn't it? It's possible, not for sure. We need to check, there might have been expert versions. Actually, we have a huge valve on the block that will naturally do everything we like. We have separate barrels for oil here. Our barrel, I felt it under the Hydra. or under something. Oh, I understand, this is for cooling, and this is for oil. That's what I was talking about. The oil is like a bathtub normal. These caps are from AliExpress. We have a 4-liter tank. It should look like this, really about the same. It's just a huge 5-liter tank that you can fill up and then sell it. And sports persons usually don't have high mileage. They just jump off. In sports, the oil doesn't last long. This is the coolant liquid filling port. In short, everything has changed under the hood, except the brakes, which remained in their original place because they were previously well tuned. The ABS, with the washer reservoir, will also change. But the battery will remain here, and here is another control unit, something like that. In general, the whole thing has changed here. It's astonishing, guys. How you have to live with this. Understand what's what. Because from the old car, I almost don't recognize anything. I have no idea what's going on. But I've never seen such coolers. Although I've done something similar. Why did you make it so thick? It's not very small. There is not much blowing. It will also have fans. Yes, it will be intercooler with 2 fans. So it can be blown even when driving slowly. Or, for example, after accelerating from a traffic light and then stopping at the next one. Everything will be cooled. It's very interesting what temperature will be under the hood. Will the car melt or not? For now, there are no answers to all these questions. Only practical tests will show. But damn, it looks terrifying. I'm starting to worry. Not many believe it, but when we usually shoot videos before the start, especially on the UAZ, when you're with someone, you're really scared. Every one time you're scared. Because it's not your regular Era 7 with an Arab chip, from which Gina left from the Emirates, where they chip your car differently. It's not the same. Here everything is just on luck. It's like playing Russian roulette. It really wants to disassemble you all the time. You understand that there is no 100% guarantee that you'll reach a speed of 100 kilometers per hour in one piece. So now already look at this. I'm thinking ahead, imagining, damn, I'll go home on the Range Rover with 105 horsepower. I'm confident about everything. Everything will be fine. But here, a bit later, it's really scary. The chassis is still the same. No one has calculated or done anything. No, I often stand in my videos, I'm cocky, and I tell the viewer that I know everything here. I know everything will be okay. I have no idea what will happen. Well, we believe, better believe. The final appearance under the hood is extremely neat, tidy, and very positive. Everything looks great and the eye is pleased with every detail. All the fasteners are tidy, all the pipes are in armor. We've been waiting for all of this for a year and a half, 2, 3, maybe even 8 to 15 years. Nevertheless, the result seems positive from the first try, as the car entered the dyno stand. As you saw for yourselves, on the dyno stand there were 611 horsepower and 950 Nm of torque. This is a lot. This was done from the first attempt. The car was being assembled for a very long time. It was assembled and tuned. As for now, nothing is leaked, nothing is dripping, nothing unnatural is happening. The only thing is that our onboard computer sometimes complains when you release the gas after accelerating and quickly stopping at a traffic light, saying that the coolant temperature is at 97 degrees and the oil temperature is 85. The oil is very cool because the massive radiator here efficiently takes away all the heat. This amazing story of the car isn't over. It's just a technical series. Don't worry. way. There are a lot of small issues we will address, starting with the fact that during the entire project's presence, the body began to break down. The frame was off-center relative to the new body, so the paint peeled off, ending with the fact that the roofs started to rot. Over the years, the roof from the original car started to rot. It needs some attention, but now, let's move to our first series. In one video, we drove in with the old engine, it was 4:2, and we drive out with a new one that works. We don't even know how much horsepower it has yet. The main goal of this series is to understand whether the transmission will fit, if we can operate this car with this transmission, and what to do next. Besides, it's obvious that we need to change the tires. Unlike the previous series on my channel where he told how much my projects cost, I can't do that for the UAZs, because it has been built over such a long period with such stages and intervals that I've completely forgotten. I have no idea how much it all costs. Many of you will say, how can they afford it? How much money are they pouring into this? I can say we can afford anything. We have undergone numerous changes inside the cabin. Before we had fuel level sensors here, something else was displayed. I don't even remember now. The coolant temperature was displayed here, and now we have a large monitor and a row of buttons below it. These are beautiful buttons now. They are rotary, pushable, and joystick-like. This is truly remarkable, guys. It's really powerful. I want you to understand this. It's just that you can adjust it now. You can turn it like this. It's not set up yet, don't worry. We will add the speed. But nevertheless, let's turn on the ignition, and after a while this thing will come to life. Look, antifreeze spraying. There was also my logo, and the instrument cluster itself with the gauges. The gauges here, as you understand, are digital. Therefore, they can mimic something. Right now it looks like Ferrari. This is also logical. Maybe there was a Lamborghini or something else. This one is probably a yellow Ferrari, so it makes sense. There was probably a Lamborghini, for instance. I can even put a BMW instrument cluster. You understand that I can change and customize each of these parameters. Exactly, and now we're actually returning back, probably to Lambo. And if we keep turning right for a while, we'll get into that game with Mark, which has already been spent in Omsk. But the situation will change now. Just a moment. Now we will spend Mark again. Jump in between the columns. Now, Mark, let's go. Mark, let's go. Samurai, hold on, I caught a column with my arc. So that's the instrument cluster. You can extract it from the traffic jams, sit there, enjoying everything, and then come back and adjust all the necessary parameters. We can understand on the instrument cluster, press here, make settings. There are sensors, inputs and outputs, lamps, basically you adjust it. For instance, brightness can be adjusted like this. However, it adjusts various parameters. There is a lot of information associated with it. In addition to that, this rotary knob, as I said, is responsible for power. You choose engine and transmission management programs, some preset and, roughly speaking, configs that can engage the boost, which actually reacts to power, and so on. With this switch, you can immediately select these 12 preset settings, which you can configure in advance and load here. This button here turns on and off all-wheel drive, which I understand probably locks the interaxle differential or not. And it does something else that we haven't figured out yet. Denise explained for 2 hours how this all works in a new day. This instrument cluster, by the way, is not fully completed yet. A very important indicator here is the automatic transmission temperature. It's very important, and it's even showing 23 now. Of course, this is not true because the sensor gives the correct temperature, but the electronic engine control unit shows it incorrectly on the display. In short, we need a little more time. The car was in the repair shop for at least 2 years, but we need a little more time to get everything working perfectly. But life is ahead, as they say, so someday all of this will be completed, and it will work perfectly. But for now, let's enjoy it. Guys, it's time to try to measure ourselves. And also try to race a bit. I'm really nervous about this, you won't believe it. Because the situation with the Bridgestone from Sanyong, which probably has been around for about 8–10 years, is a tough story that nevertheless allows us to achieve 4.2 seconds to 100 kilometers per hour. We achieved this on this car, 4.2 seconds to 100 kilometers per hour. It's fantastic. Our car is equipped from the factory with a transmission that's designed to work with an engine with 440 Newton meters of torque, and now it has 950 Newton meters. In short, there are no factors for us to get out of the 4 seconds. Not at all. And the technical series is complete. We have to deal with all the rest in the next series. Moreover, the transmission is now controlled by its own separate electronic control unit. It's positioned on the passenger's side and needs to be configured first. But we've finished the technical work, we've assembled the engine, we've tuned in. Why not try something? Can't we just drop by, maybe, well, accidentally pass by some respectable folks who will happen to have a G Class, which should go 4.4 seconds to 100 kilometers per hour in stock, but here totally by accident. For unspecified reasons, maybe went downhill. According to recent measurements, we just hit 4.1. Whether we win today or not doesn't really matter. We've just gathered and went out to try it for the sake of spectacle. Let's go. So guys, what do you think? Let's start by accelerating from 0 to 100, even without launch control. We'll calmly release the brake pedal and gently press the accelerator pedal to observe the behavior of the car, how it gains speed or not, because this is the very first time. We're really doing it in real time, you see. If we knew how fast we were going, if we knew how fast my car was, and if the G-Wagon wasn't here, there wouldn't be that excitement and intrigue. Everything is done in real time. It was very quick. I went without any lunch. I messed up the start. To say my hands are shaking, my friends, is an understatement. Well, it can be 3.8 to 60. Well, now let's try a bit more aggressively, because in the first run I didn't launch anything. I didn't go anything. Yes. Because I had no lunch at all. My time to 100 kilometers per hour was 5.1 seconds. Now it's like we didn't accelerate. I don't know what's going on. But apparently neither of us is accelerating chronically. Yet I always switch to second to third on the boost. The strangest thing is that telemetry says 105. Although I'm just leaving for the second gear, the third gear on the boost. For me it says 5.1 to 100. Maybe I shouldn't have dropped logic on the assault just now. Let's try. But we have some small issues. No one has set up for the launch for me yet, meaning I'm just pressing both pedals, nothing more. So let's try to invent something now. I messed up. I don't have lunch. I'm eating him. Because I don't have launch control, I lose at the start. And sure, G-Wagon goes first. But at higher speeds, I catch up with him anyway. Which means that we had 4.6 to 100 kilometers per hour. That's a bad result, but we need to set up and program the launches. And what's most incredible is that the transmission holds up. Listen, there is no launch for me at all, but still 4.6. I went and I still ate it up after the traffic light. It's amazing how much it caught up with you. I just think further. I have a quarter-mile time similar to yours, I suppose. Average speed 180. Yes, even the quarter-mile. You'll probably manage it. It's miles anyway, you'll beat me in top speeds. I've never driven over 200. In short, I need to set up the launch because it's surprising how much I'm catching up while driving. It seems to oppose to me. Yes, I went well, and there I was just there. There are 2 cases, or however many cases there were exactly, you left me behind quite significantly, and then the turbo kicked in. I was so confident. Yes, but still on control or not, it's still 4.6 to 100, I'm slow. Because due to unforeseen reasons, perhaps due to going downhill, according to Dini's warning, the launch controls are not programmed, and they are not available yet, just like the transmission is not tuned. So most likely we've now established that firstly the transmission is alive. Look, the transmission is working because there seems to be no latch control. Therefore, the transmission is working, it's soft, it engages, it's alive. When the latch is available, the transmission might give away, but for now we've established that the system is functioning. So I'll get lucky. Folks, just try to boost again. It takes a very long time to boost, but it still boosts. Nevertheless, it doesn't catch. Something's still wrong. With the feel of it, the transmission is starting to give out a bit, so one last attempt where I'll really try to boost. Let's see what happens. That was intense. That was extremely intense. We both started simultaneously. We gave it everything. We started off well. We went straight, hitting 4.1. I also showed that it's really close to be truth because the G-Wagon, which is also supposed to do 4.1, also went about the same and kept up with me tooth and nail. It was cool. Which means that, in essence, it's quite honest data for him. And after 100 km per hour, I finally managed to catch up. Well, folks, our little, very small yet far from final and not properly assembled beast still, however, the success lies in the fact that a new engine is running, and it didn't overpower the transmission, probably because its acceleration is the same as the previous engine. In other words, we can't realize more power and torque due to several reasons. Perhaps the transmission itself doesn't transmit it correctly, doesn't realize it. Perhaps we also lack tires. In the first gear, the front end is sliding. It's felt through the steering wheel. When you launch, you can do anything with the steering wheel, but the car just goes straight because the wheels are spinning. This is less of a problem now. The turbo kicks in very late and you can't boost it from a standstill using both pedals. We'll lose all starts. We have a 0 of 10.4. Then when second and third gears engaged, and the turbo finally kicked in, we get 6 seconds. It's noticeable just because we're getting away from a heavier car, which has 600 horsepower. We probably have a slight aerodynamic advantage, as strange as it may sound, because we're narrow. I am a narrow UAZ, in the sense that I'm also narrow. My cheeks don't hinder, probably. So all these nuances, somewhere between 100, 150, maybe 180, they provide some advantage in everything else. Indeed, with 6 horsepower, they are the same, but we should be doing 3.7. We need to realize the torque, because we've already hit 4.1 with 400 horsepower. To achieve this, we need to finish all these setups. I'm still sure we will change the transmission in the next series. When the hydro transformer holder arrives, the surplus power will just go to the front wheel spin. It's only happening during the start. When we get this holder, we'll burn the clutches in the same transmission. In general, guys, the most interesting is ahead. We're still far from dominating the Urus, as we said before, and we're not even ready to outperform a tuned G-Wagon, because here we have practically stock values. but we can flash this ECU. It's proven fact that people with the same 3.7 gears are doing it. There is still a lot of work ahead of us, but it will be much faster than 2 years, I hope at least. In a few days we'll meet with the transmission specialist and representative from Pacman Soft. We'll program the transmission using our own brains, then Dennis will fine-tune it, finish the lunch, set up all the necessary alerts, so that the dashboard shows the transmission temperature, etc., and so on. Guys, a busy season is ahead. Thank you so much for watching.